Hey Andy, how you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, John. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. Thanks, and thanks again for joining me. Um, we'll give people 2 minutes and then we'll get started.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you very much for having me as well.
No, not at all, not at all, not at all. How's your day been?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. Very, very busy as expected. Halfway through the week. So yeah, no, doing good, thanks.
Good, good. I'm just
And
having a
hello to
quick
all
look.
your listeners and those that have subscribed. Thanks so much.
Oh, yeah, I think as you're here, mate, the figures have gone up. We got loads of people pouring in. I'm just trying to see whose names I recognise. Um, in fact, there's too many. I can't see. Another 1 minute, and then we'll get going. We've got so much to talk about today. I'm going to introduce you properly in a second, Andy, and then we'll get started. I don't know how we're going to get through it all, but we'll give it our best go. So, and
Yeah, sounds good.
I think we'll just get started. So, without further ado, thank you so much for joining us on this webinar today. It's a really exciting one, and this is a sort of webinar that if we wrote the content last week, we'd probably have to change it today,
Yeah,
given
100%.
everything that's happened. How do you keep up? How do we keep up? We'll talk about that in a bit, mate. But let's just go through the usual stuff to start with. But before we do that, Andy, I've known you for so many years. I've learned so much from you. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, John. So, yes, hello everyone. So, I'm Andy. I started in SEO back in 2006, and it was John who hired me back then. I learned so much and continue to do so from John and the team. I spent 7 glorious years at the company before leaving in 2013 to go to a media agency where I was a search director looking after the P&G account. Um, I stayed in agency land for a little bit, and then in 2018 I joined IG Group as the head of SEO. I then went on to Kazoo as the head of organic performance. It was a startup that I really wanted to join, UK focused at the time, well funded, and it was an exceptional role that I loved. And from May last year, I started out on my own as a marketing consultant, operating under B Frank. Um, and I've got a couple of clients in fintech and one in pet care as well. So yeah, nice diverse range, and yeah, loving the setup as well. And this is such an important topic that has exploded in the last 2.5 years that I'm really looking forward to jumping in with you, John, on it.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. As I said, we got so much to unpack today. But in terms of all the basic housekeeping stuff, if you guys have questions or thoughts, or you just want to say hi, you want to tell us where you're from, drop that into the questions channel. Can somebody out there just test that? I just want to see it's working. Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're from. Drop that into the questions, and you can use that for anything. Ah, got a thumbs up from Tim. And don't forget emojis. We love those. We've got Michael says hi. Declan's from Manchester. We know it's working. Um, so just keep it coming. John Sharman, of course you're there, all the way from sunny Silverstone. Lauren from Columbus, Ohio. Wonderful. We've got Martina from Italy. Rebecca from Edinburgh. We've got Dave from Toronto. So we got a whole bunch of people from lots of different places. But let's get straight into the agenda. Okay, number one, the biggest changes in 2024-25. We haven't got time for them all. We're just going to pick a few focused ones. We've got our predictions. Andy's got his, I've got mine. We're going to look at the latest innovations in generative AI. And of course, we've got some must have AI tools. And on the way, we're going to hand out some tips and show you some of the stuff that we do. Sound good to you, Andy?
Yeah, great stuff, John. Thanks.
Okay, cool. But let's begin with a very quick poll. To what extent has AI impacted or changed the way you search? Not do your shopping or do anything else, but how has it changed the way that you search for information? So let's see. It should be a pop-up window happening in a second on the back end. Here we go. Don't know which way you think it's going to go, Andy. Where have
Well,
you
I
put your
mean,
money?
for me, my search life has changed like significantly with since Q4 2022, to be honest. So, and yeah, keen to see there's mixed bag. I think everyone on this call near enough has like tried it and is experimenting and worked, but I think it's just how people discover information like these days and
Mm-hmm.
what you can get your best answer to um, through like a myriad of different like areas and how you can automate things. So yeah, I'm not surprised with these at all. I'd love as well to with the experimenting how kind of different and what different kind of interactions you have with uh, Gemini or ChatGPT versus what you would have done with Google. How about you, John?
Well,
How's
what do you reckon? What's my answer? You know my answer.
the same as me?
My life has changed. My search life has changed. Search is never going to be the same. 2025 is the biggest year for the biggest upheavals in search. So let's
Yep.
let's take a look at this. So moving on from here, let's look at those biggest changes. And here, Andy, let's let's start with you. There are some familiar badges and icons, call them what you will here, but
Yeah.
what's your standout that's really changed the way that you search or you do your job
So
utilizing
yeah,
AI?
it. I use ChatGPT is what I've chosen from very early on, from when it burst onto the scene in
Mm-hmm.
Q4 of 2022. I have it as like a personal assistant that I use every day, and we can go through some of the kind of bits that I would do. Um,
Yep.
I tried out Bard in the early days, and I was blown away more with ChatGPT than with Bard back then. So, and I think, and this was something that Sundar Pichai had kind of said that he's concerned about how synonymous generative AI is now with ChatGPT. I mean, if we look at some of the recent kind of website figures, you've got like nearly 1 billion monthly visits for ChatGPT, and a tenth of that goes to Gemini,
Mm-hmm.
36 million to Perplexity. So it really has a first mover advantage. I do like dabble in some of the others, but if you were saying to me like I've got a pro account with ChatGPT, like I use it for content editing, for ideation. We'll get into content creation as well at some point. And with AI overview, I do use them. There's obviously I've got no choice in some instances. I can obviously scroll past, but um, there is still that element of trust with Google. And for me personally, I do scan that and take a look, and I do sometimes click on the links. But we'll get into a bit more in terms of how sometimes I use ChatGPT as well with things. But how about you though, John? I guess you've experimented with all of these.
Yeah, pretty much all of them. But what I'm going to do in a minute, I'm going to highlight, my current favorite. And it's not ChatGPT. It always was, and building GPTs. But I discovered something about 3 weeks ago that has literally changed my life. It's a game changer, and we're going to take a look at that in a second. But let's just talk about the AI overview because you mentioned it. Sometimes you skim over it. Sometimes you click on the links. That's great to hear. But in the SEO community, there's been a real division of people who hate it, people who want to get rid of it, and then there are some people who are really starting to actually love it now. So on the subject of the AIO itself, I want to hear what you guys think of it. in this next poll before I show you an example of how it's changing everything. So, what are your thoughts on this? And while those pollsters give their thoughts, Andy, how do you see it changing for people on the street, for the average person out there who picks up their phone and wants to buy something new? How do you see it impacting them?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel that this is the big year that Google will start to integrate Gemini significantly more within Google search. We've generally had the same experience for the past like 20 years. And this was such a huge like shift in terms of how people will discover information.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first iteration that I believe was rushed originally,
Yep.
given that ChatGPT burst onto the scene, and I think Sundar Pichai had to react,
Yep.
given how much they'd invested in AI with DeepMind, and obviously the work they've done being the leader. It was, I guess, frustrating for them and for investors in terms of how they'd fallen behind so quickly. So I think that came out. I like it's still nearly 90% market share for in terms of the search engine category. So it's still huge, even though we can see it dipping. So yeah, I still these are crucial in terms of visibility, and we will get into I guess how you can kind of identify those queries that are kind of returning the AIOs.
Thank you so much. Literally we could talk about this very single topic for about the next 10 hours, but we can't do that. The majority of people are saying it's better than it was. We've got nearly 30% who say it's the future. I'm in that camp, and Andy, I'm pretty sure that you are as well.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I just want to show an example, right? And you and I talked about this the other day, but let's imagine that you were searching for living sustainably, something we all want to do. I'm going to compare 12 months ago, the SERP, with the SERP today. And it's not
Yeah.
just the AIO, but we're seeing some fundamental changes here. So, okay, January last year, living sustainably. That's a pretty dull SERP. You got people also asking, you got 10 blue links, and there's nothing else really exciting going on in there. Why have things changed so much in under a year? Well, Google's trying to clean up the SERP. It's trying to clean its act up. And I agree with these things that Google is trying to push out. Not helpful content, commercially tainted. And I would say, alongside commercially tainted, written for algorithms, low quality, vanilla AI. I just want to ask you, Andy, how much are you seeing content writers being influenced and restricted by algorithmic guidelines?
Yeah, I mean, my approach in any business that I've worked with or clients now is to have a customer centric approach
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't like just focus purely on tools that produce AI content built for algorithms rather than humans. Um, I still it's hard because I think in when you're in the business, you want to make sure that you're future facing,
Mm-hmm.
but you also want to make sure that you've got the customer experience like in place. And I still think that is crucial throughout. You'll get CMOs, like marketing directors, that are unsure of the impact that if you and it's not just from SEO perspective, like if you are producing mass content on a topic that you don't really know too much about, and it hasn't been an experience by an actual human, you do lose trust as well with certain things. We've got a couple of examples, I guess, later on that we can talk through. But look, I would proceed with caution with it. I think there's certain topics that can be utilized, very functional stuff. Like I said, I use ChatGPT every day, helps
Mm-hmm.
clean up my editing and in terms of what some options in terms of what I'm trying to say.
Uh-huh.
So it should always be part of this process. But I'd never see or recommend like removing a whole content team to be replaced by like a generative AI producer. The commercially tainted is quite interesting because I feel like ChatGPT, so Sam Altman has been against ads, like very much so in the past. Again, their hand might be forced. Perplexity is experimenting with ads, and you do think, how could that potentially influence the user, right? Because you in the last 20 years, we've had like an attention economy. So Google, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram are there to try and get your attention so they can sell you ads, like
Yes.
Meta's playbook. Whereas with the LLMs, like this could now be like an intention economy whereby advertisers are paying to influence that approach, and you can see, imagine what film should I see, which restaurant should I go to? Well, yeah, but maybe go see this Spider-Man film or this Italian restaurant because it's been pushed through by advertisers. We have to see, and this is part of the prediction side of things, right? Because you don't know how it will go, but that is definitely a possibility for how these tech firms evolve.
I love this, Andy, and I'm actually making notes on some of this stuff to either come back to you today or come back another time. You mentioned trust twice. Trust is so important, and we're going to talk more about that in a bit. But let's take a look at that same query. Remember living sustainably? Let's take a look at that query today. This is what the SERP looks like. We've got a completely different SERP. This is more than AIO, and that AIO is actually collapsed there. So we've got Quora, we've got Reddit, we've got forums, 12 video touch points, images, etc. This, as it says there, is a conversational SERP. Okay, it's fueled, it's supported by social media, and people are saying, well, I'm still on page one of Google. Oh, here comes the AIO, so I've been pushed out of it, but there is still so many different things now within that real estate. Every single micro moment leads to a touch point on a different surface. And I think Google is hoovering up many of these surfaces, just trying to be the place to go. And of course, it's so important over time. And we talked about this the other day about visualizing the SERP. I always say, you would say start in the mind of the searcher, and I would agree with you. Start with the audience and then go to the SERP and look at that SERP, Google's database of human intention. We can see in this instance here with the AI overview present does fluctuate across a group of terms on a daily basis, averaging around 20% visibility. We've got the video carousel, we've got images, we've got answer cards. The SERP is richer than it ever has been, which is why I wonder people ever ask the question, are we on page one? It should be, how many doorways have we opened on page one, and how many conversations are we in? So
Yeah.
let's talk about predictions. Andy, we spoke again the other day on your
Yeah.
macro thought. Tell me where you're at.
I think to your point earlier on in the session about if we'd have written this 1 week ago, it'd be very different today.
Yeah.
And I mean, even in the last 48 hours, the change is significant, right? And this does impact like longer term in terms of what we as marketeers will be dealing with. If you look at the inauguration of Trump, previous inaugurations, you would have seen world leaders or Rupert Murdoch, like in terms of close there. He had Sundar Pichai, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk sitting behind him. Like the influence that Silicon Valley has now in this is all for everyone to see. Like and I think the likes of Zuckerberg has looked at Musk and thought, right, I need to get some of that. I need to get some of that attention with him. So you've seen the changes that they said they're going to make in terms of, so this is huge in terms of the influence that tech is now having within politics in America. And
Hmm.
given that Trump, again, day two, he stood there with Masayoshi Son, so SoftBank's group CEO, Larry Ellison, chairman of Oracle, and Sam Altman of OpenAI last night, revealing about Stargate. So it's going to build the physical and virtual infrastructure significantly to power the US against the likes of China in the race for AI supremacy, right? And I think this is crucial because the amount of influence that they have in terms of policy, and the
Mm.
fact that he has also revoked uh, Biden's executive order about addressing AI risks, it just
Yep.
shows where his kind of priorities are. And I think you'll see a lot more M&A, mergers and acquisitions
Yep.
under Trump. We even saw that Perplexity, that Google are investing in Perplexity. That was this morning in the FT. So yeah, I think it's in a very exciting time
Yep.
for again us as marketeers working with AI and seeing the developments, but it's also a very worrying time as well. There's no two ways about it. And one thing I just would say also is, so I've got like two young boys, and you do worry as well about critical thinking and how AI will remove that element from like the generation after Gen Z, which I found out the name the other day and I can't remember what it is now. But yeah, my like I said, I've got two young boys. Will they think, well, I can't even be bothered to think about this. I'm just going to use ChatGPT. So I think that there is an issue that needs to be addressed on risks about
Yep.
critical thinking, um, because you're just going to lose that. And the last thing I'll just say, on the macro side, I think we'll see a lot more. We've seen content partnerships, so
Hmm.
what to base the training data on with Reddit, with Google. You've got new.
Generation Alpha, sorry, says Tim in the
Thanks,
chat.
Tim. That is it. I did find it out because I was, yeah, yeah.
2010 to
Explain to my
2024,
parents,
apparently.
but yeah, no, all good. Generation Alpha. Looking forward to that. So yes, I do think there'll be a lot more integrations as well. So with Apple, ChatGPT, like they launched
Hmm.
it obviously September time. You've seen TripAdvisor partnering with Perplexity. So yeah, I think you'll see a lot more of those types of partnerships.
So much. And Andy, we could literally stay on this topic forever, but I think in summary, you know, that side of what's going on in the US, I think we're going to see a much more rapid rollout of things that might otherwise have taken longer. So over here in the UK, we might find ourselves just a little behind the curve, as always, with things to do with generative AI. But I just like I went through this with the other day. I just like to share with the audience a true story, and the reason I'm telling this story, um, it's threefold. I think what I'm going to show you guys now is a brilliant way to sift through an unimaginable amount of information. Okay, and I'm going to show it's also a very powerful way to research a topic. I wonder if anyone can guess what I'm about to talk about. And this is where search is headed. This combined with classic search. And the problem with search, it's painful. It takes ages to go through the results and find exactly what you need, something you can trust. So in comes, this is like a Rocky movie, ChatGPT or OpenAI versus Google. And I tell you what, Google was on the ropes. And then recently, only a couple of weeks ago, bounced back up to take the lead. This is phenomenal. Okay. Okay, let me just show you. I'll show you with this story of what happened to me on Christmas Day, Christmas morning. The oven blew up. Okay, the oven blew up. It happened before. It took me a year to get it sorted, and I had to spend a year cooking outdoors. Anyway, Christmas morning, the oven's gone. Okay, about 11 a.m. What do I need? A new oven, less than 500 quid because I'm a cheapskate, a bargain, high quality, etc. UK only. Don't give me US results. Getting good results from a standard query would be impossible. So enter Gemini deep or advanced with deep research. Here's the process I went through in about 10 minutes. Okay, I went to Gemini Advanced, and I'll show you the results. And this could apply to a content strategy. You could utilize this if you wanted to do research on a topic, if you wanted to become a topical authority. I'm not saying it's going to write your content, but it will give you a pretty impressive piece of research. It starts with a research plan. It does the research for you once the plan's approved. It comes up with the answer, builds you a document, click of a button, that's gone, if there are any charts, into Google Sheets, and also build you a slide deck to which I can go into the house and present Sarah and say, I've done all my research. But let's have a look at this process very rapidly. I begin in deep research with a query that encapsulates everything I want. You wouldn't do this in regular Google, but you do it if you went into a store. I would have that conversation. That conversation is coming to Google. This is the power that sits behind a lot of what Google does. So there was my query. I've asked the query. What Google Deep Research or Gemini Deep Research then does is actually builds out a research plan with 8 different topics. It's told me it's going to find reviews from people who've actually used the oven. Are there any warranties or guarantees? Thanks, Google. I hadn't thought about that. Okay, filter results to show good or excellent reviews. Okay, this is awesome. And at this point, when I hit the button and it goes off and does the research, I've got a question for the audience. How many websites did Gemini Deep Research analyze whilst doing the research? And I'm not talking about how many has it got indexed or anything like that. It's already got the world indexed. But how many websites did it pick to really deep dive? This is interesting. A few people say 23 websites. We got 25% of people at 55 websites, and an extraordinary, almost 60% of the audience think the 185 websites. Andy, I've probably told you this, so I'm not going to. What would you guess? What would you guess? You know, shut up.
No, the answer. So yeah.
You know the
Only
answer.
because you told me.
Yeah. Okay, come on, guys. Last few seconds for this, and then I'm going to show you the results. The results are mind-blowing. There's not a day of my life that goes by when I'm not employing this, whether it's to research topics, whether it's to discover things, whether it's to learn something new. Have we got the poll closed yet? Let's close that poll. And the majority of people got it right. They said 185 websites. And it's not just websites. I mean, this is phenomenal. Look at just a few of those sites or destinations there. And if we break it down, we're looking at 58 YouTube videos. I looked at almost every one of those YouTube videos. That was about 4 hours of content. TikTok, 11 videos, 8 subreddits, really popular ones. Amazon, done for us, research, filtered, PDP pages, and 100 plus brands as well. And this guy, that nutter there, I ended up following him on TikTok because he's got great oven advice. And at the end of the day, all of this took 8 minutes. 8 minutes. I didn't have to change one thing. What did I end up with? A 14-page, beautifully formatted report in Google Docs, okay, with recommendations, conclusions, details of user experiences, real people's stories, links to the videos, side-by-side comparisons, pros and cons. I mean, Andy, this did my work for me. This was better than going into the store because I still didn't have to buy it. And then it
Yeah.
finally found me this gem of an oven. You know what I did? I bought it. Still got to come. So I don't know if it's good or bad. Wait, but that was such a powerful piece of research. Imagine researching a topic. Imagine a client
Yeah.
asks you, well, you've got to research a topic for 2025. This is your tool. Anybody, I mean, what do you think? Give me a thumbs up, guys, if you think this is cool. It's actually
It
phenomenal.
is impressive. Yeah, yeah.
I can actually show you what it looks like here. And not only that, lots of thumbs up. Thanks, guys. Not only that, but you can come back to there's one, men's facial hair trends 2025. Look at this. Beautiful. Look at those sources. I mean, this is it for me, it changed my life. And I compare the results of this basically against ChatGPT, and I say ChatGPT, like bottom half of secondary school. This guy here is off to do a PhD. That's how impressed I was.
Yeah.
And the whole point of this, we've got the AIO and the standard search model. It's going to become one this year without a shadow of a doubt. You won't know the difference. Okay, Gemini, the power and the capability there, imagine that injected into this standard search model where we end up with a conversational engine. Nobody's going to put a prompt like that into it. But already, I mean, Andy, when you're searching in Google, you are steered towards the right answer or the obvious answer. And I tell you what, just to finish off this bit, remember these from the search generative experience? The little tokens that caused you to stay in that SGE world, these are going to come back.
Yeah.
I've said it before and I'll say it again.
You
When are they
have.
going to come back? I'll tell you when. When people trust those generative AI results. No more gluing cheese onto pizza. Where's your level of trust, Andy, with the AIO?
Yeah, no, I do, like I said, I do jump into it like significantly, and sometimes you end up thinking, is it because I'm in the space and
Yeah,
like I'm testing it out, and then you look and see the result you've seen in the AIO. Is it on page one? Is it in people also ask? So you in the classic link, sorry. So you kind of do that. The one thing that I do in ChatGPT is if you do ask about the research, because I think that's essential as well to
yeah,
get that understanding of something and to summarize certain points. But there's amount of times I'll get a response, but I'll ask for the source. Where did you get this from? Like, could you look at Kantar? Could you look at Yuga or whatever it is, right? Because that still matters as well. That you want to
yeah,
make sure who wrote this, where's the source from,
yes.
and I think that's for me, but like I said, maybe that's just me in the zone with it. Um, could you just also go back as well, John, to the guy with the Republic of Ireland wallpaper that he's got the green the
Which
oven
one?
guy.
Oh, oven, yeah, oven dude,
I
amazing.
just I think as well, given what you've put here, so you've got Amazon PDPs, right?
Yep.
So if you have like like a store listing and in terms of if you're looking at ecom and you're working on your Amazon account, that's away from your own domain. You've got the Reddit side of things. We obviously the growth in Reddit over the last it's such a huge SEO kind of case study that people reference.
Yep.
Started to dip in the last couple of weeks. You got obviously TikTok, YouTube, video. Like this just shows why SEOs do need to be like horizontally integrated within the business as well. And sometimes if you're like, well, I just look after the website. There's not really like Reddit. I can't really do much on there. Or like have a look and see if you're doing any kind of paid media on it. See what the type of traction you're getting. Like TikTok
Hmm.
is the engagement that you get on that early on is like insane versus other from my experience.
Yep.
And again, I think it's essential to be where your customers are, and that should go for the same with ChatGPT and Perplexity. Where so when the traffic figures I referenced earlier on, like that's where you need to making sure that you're looking at to ensure where are my customers, are they transitioning across,
Yeah.
because that's the thing, and that's the threat to Google now. Like we've seen like the voice search, which was meant to be the big thing in 2017, 18. Like we did assume that
Yep.
you would, and I kind of, because it was quite exciting, like you'd
Still
kind of like,
coming. It's still coming.
yeah, yeah, but I think the thing is now you see like with Amazon that will be with Alexa will be powered. I can't remember if it's Claude now or not, but in terms of bringing this in, or Perplexity, I think it might be. So it's going to, but I just remember the excitement, and then you were thinking like, oh, like Google Search Console, will you be able to differentiate between voice searches? John Mueller was just like, no, why would you need that? So I think as well, it's just to see that transition.
Yeah.
And I think as well, if you do look at the analytics, like for the categories that I've looked at, you are seeing growing in terms of referrals from some of the LLMs. Like, and again, it's really early days. Like, we need to just keep moving with it. Anyway, sorry, John, I've
No,
spoke too.
no, no. And I mean, I'm right. I don't normally write down, what people say, but you say go where people go, and or go where your customers are, and that's really crucial. Whereas you get 100 people in a room, the oven's blown up. You know, if you're, my son's age, you'll probably go to, well, he would go to Google, but people will go to TikTok, they'll go to Insta, they'll go to a forum, they'll go to Reddit. Some people will go to Google,
Yeah,
and Google thinking, hang on a minute. Look what Gemini did there. I'm going to bring it all onto this surface, so you don't have to go anywhere else. But let's get back to this. Where were we? Number 2.1. So we're moving on, and I want to bring you in again here. How should we approach AI and content? Andy, does it matter? Does it matter who makes the content, providing that it satisfies the user? Does it?
right. So I believe it does, and I'm going to
Go on,
use this example, and I'll
convince
also
me.
talk about personal stuff. There are certain things, if it's help and support, you don't really care, right? But
Yeah,
if you want to, I've used this. I'm a football fan, so if you want to understand how Lionel Messi plays, the art of him dribbling around players, and someone that experienced that kind of
beautiful
moment.
game. Beautiful game.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Me and John used to always do like the cliched football stuff, and I'd get him through meetings when someone would bring football up. But don't you want to hear from somebody that's experienced that rather than training data that has said, yeah, I know the Lionel Messi started his career in 2006. He's won X amount of cups. He's low center of gravity. He dribbles in and out of players. Like, doesn't it matter who has written this? And to be honest, there's an open like
I,
conversation with it.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know,
Yeah,
but I learn. But does it?
yeah, yeah.
I agree. I agree with your. I agree. It does matter.
So the one I had for you was 10 years ago. It's your wedding anniversary, and you've written Mrs. E a poem, right? So
Uh-huh.
it's heartfelt. You've written it,
Yep.
and she loves it. Now you've forgotten the anniversary, right?
True.
You're about to go in the house, and you go, oh no, what can I do? I'll ask ChatGPT to write this poem for me. You've you've written the poem, and then you read it out. And it's better than your one that you've done.
I'll take
But
it.
yeah, you might, but will Mrs. E take it?
If she doesn't know, she'll love it.
Yeah. So look, all my
It's
point is that I think it does matter, and this is not just SEO. This is if you want to build relationship with customers, and you're talking about testimonials,
Yep.
and you're talking about like the great work that you're doing for this kind of area. Like, don't you want it to be real as opposed
Yep.
to pure? And don't get me wrong, there are certain things that should be started with, like with Gen AI, that you then can build upon. Ideation I do all the time, but like I said, I think if you're looking at a longer term trend, my take is always to make sure that you have experts working on this. And I understand budget can be tough. You also get like KPIs from someone that's above that, just maybe doesn't understand goes, look, we can cut out this whole
Yeah.
kind of team. Like we can just do this. Like it'll be fine. I've seen a couple of businesses do that. Sorry, and sorry, I got too excited there, throwing my pen across the room.
Quite right too. I don't blame you.
Yeah. If you go to the next slide, just to show this, and I'm not gonna call out, but like this is the traffic, total traffic for one of the top case studies on a tech
Brilliant.
provider of generative content. I was just quite baffled that this was the main case study
Mm.
that you can see in terms of organic search declining month on month for the last 20, I think it's 36 months in terms of what SimilarWeb goes back to. Direct traffic's kind of staying the same, so you'd say brand's not really been affected. So all I would be is just weary of what looks like really quick wins, and to go, yeah, look, we can cut this out, we can go through this, um, without really assessing. Because remember, there's so many signals from the SEO side
Yeah.
that you look at. So like, I think sometimes SEOs would be like authorship. Well, that's part of EEAT. Like that will give us tick. But think of the customers. Like they're coming to the site, and you're talking about pensions, or you're talking about what schools are good in the area, or things like this. Like, don't they want to know who's written that? And I think that's still an important part. Um, and essentially like what makes us human as well. Like I really do believe that, but we shall
I,
see.
I do agree with. We could probably talk about just that alone for the next 3 weeks. But I do agree. It does matter, and to an extent, Google's algorithms are helping us out in the background. So let's just talk a little bit about how to navigate AI in your business. I don't know whether you want me to move on to the next slide, Andy.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Like it's all good. All I wanted to talk about was, I think it is essential. SEOs from I'd say from 2013-14 onwards should have horizontally been integrated within a business. There was certain
Yeah.
things you could have done in isolation, and I think now you can see brands. So the two Scandinavian giants, in terms of they've been very vocal in what they've done from an AI side for marketing and operations and product. And I think it's essential, like if you're on the Slack channels, whatever you've got in terms of your internal comms, like find out who is responsible for like the AI stance on the business. You'll still see so many where it's like there's privacy concerns, like you've got one person going off in isolation. This is a huge component of our lives, and what you can essentially do to automate tasks that makes your productivity so much better.
Hmm.
You reducing human error with stuff. So again, I think it's that education side, using that case study that I'd shown before, in terms of not going all in terms of content that's being created, and essentially like removing a team from it, um, and really kind of get an understanding of what the AI strategy is for the business. And that's kind of one of the projects I'm working on now, for a company, is about the translation side. Translation costs a lot. We have seen like issues with like human translations, given the fact it's sometimes not their job to do that, and then they're just picking stuff up. Also from ChatGPT Pro to that, so working with kind of the data scientist, and who's responsible for like the AI kind of starts the company, and working on an own model that is
Yeah.
also bringing the head of content in, who's then saying like, this is what we want to base it off, this is what good looks like, this is the training for it. So yeah, that would be my take. And again, on the next slide as well, John, it's just, I mean, we all know this, but like the growth is 10x for 2030. Like it's huge, and this plays into like the macro points I said at the start, in terms of what like
Mm.
Meta, for example, September 2021. It's all about the metaverse. Like I don't think anyone's heard of that in the last six months. If you look at Google Trends and you search for metaverse, see a huge spike, then it's up for a bit, then it starts to gradually come down. And if you overlay Meta AI with it, you can start to see that shooting up. And I think there'll be a big player who've gone quite quiet. There's open source as
Yeah.
well. So not say go quiet, but they've not been as from what I see anyway, as vocal as kind of your Gemini, ChatGPT, and Perplexity.
That's such good insight, mate. I love that. We're just going to have to go straight to the pub after this and carry on talking. But but and also, guys, if I see quite a few questions in here. If we don't get time to do the questions at the end of this session, we will come back. I'll get together with Andy and we will come back and answer those questions as well. And also, don't forget to connect up with Andy on LinkedIn and myself as well. And you can always reach, I say that, look at me, I'm giving you work. You can always reach out to Andy anytime you want on LinkedIn or myself. So, question. How the heck do you keep up with all the headlines? I mean, I've learned from you today already in the past 45 minutes, Andy. How do you keep up? Well, one thing that I have started to use religiously, and I absolutely love it, is, of course, schedule tasks in ChatGPT. I've fallen back in love with ChatGPT. Schedule tasks. Create a task to run while you're away. I've got some examples, actually, of and I think this has been out in the wild now for a couple of weeks, maybe 10 days. If you haven't tried it, you need Pro. But if you got Pro, you've got to do this. So essentially, you can build tasks, give OpenAI or ChatGPT instructions, set that up, calendarize it, sit back and relax. And then every Sunday in the evening at 7 p.m., I got a summary of the previous week's news. 5:30 every day. Andy, I bet you've got that one. You know, yoga and stretch, yoga move of the day, and some breath work as well. Latest SEO. I mean, guys, if you haven't tried it, you got to do it. It's a game changer. And you can get stuff delivered to your phone with an alert when you want it, when you know you are just... Andy, when you're watching the kids play football, when you're watching the boys play football, that's when you get your alerts and you catch up on all the AI news. Two birds with one stone.
This is a great tip. Yeah.
So, are you using it yet?
No, I'm not. No, I will start. You said it's a week old, 2 weeks old? Is that what you said?
It's about a week, 10 days old. Yeah. And and when those messages come through, it's like a joy. It's like a joy to behold because it's information I want from the sources I want at the time I want to consume it.
Yeah.
Life is changed. So
how's the yoga going? Good.
Yoga's all right. Yeah. Even I only do one pose in the morning, normally like a sun salutation or something. But anyway, no, we'll have to get you on it. I'll ring you at 5:30 tomorrow, and we'll do it over video. Last thing I wanted to show. Actually, I've got two more things. If you haven't used AI Studio, wow. I've been trying to fix a problem with Chrome and sharing windows instead of tabs. It sucked. Go into Google AI Studio, set it to stream real time, choose voice, and then you can have a conversation. Eventually, it knows what you're looking at. If you want to learn some software you've never learned, use this. If you want to understand some code, use this. It's like having a conversation. This fixed the problem I haven't been able to solve in 12 months, turned out to be a Chrome plugin. And AI Studio found that. And then the last thing before we go on to tools, and I'm conscious of time. Guys, you've all been amazing. We've got loads of questions, but we will do those offline probably. Operator. Okay, OpenAI is developing this new technology called Operator, and it's coming as soon as January. It could be here. It's probably here now, but it could be here next week. And this is an AI tool that's going to allow you to take control of your PC or your Mac and do stuff on your behalf. And this is a response to Anthropic's similar computer control product as well. And the real value isn't in who builds the latest computer controlling AI, but it's who controls the strongest ecosystem lock-in. And this is where I see Google and OpenAI fighting it out. This is going to be super exciting. But now, Andy, back to you. Let's talk about some of these tools. We got 10 minutes left. 10 minutes. So go for it.
So again, from my experience with things, I've worked with a couple of guys as well that were looking at like video that you could like do an interview and then you change your accent to Italian to German, and it looked spot on. Like I can see that type of stuff being essential to companies going forward. I thought it was really impressive. But the ones that I use like daily are like with Fireflies. I don't know if anyone uses AI note takers, but that really like again, it's about automating processes that makes it your life like easier with accurate kind of responses. So it's even better than what I would have done sitting there trying to present or talking and then making notes. So I use Fireflies for everything, and I would highly recommend that. I love Canva. I think it's such a great platform just for so many different kind of things in terms of because I've set obviously a business up in terms of invoicing, in terms of the videos that I do for the newsletter. So it's an essential like tool for me as a small business owner, and the AI integrations they've got I find pretty impressive. And then I do start to see a lot more of integration, like I said, and some are better than others, and some aren't. I remember being on a podcast after I left Kazoo and I was a bit like hesitant on AI because like just for stuff like title tags, alt attributes, like kind of your
Yeah.
basic SEO ones, and um, I remember being quite not against it, but I was just and then when I saw what ChatGPT could do, and I'm talking about like these are kind of minimal things,
Yeah.
still important but this integration stuff you'll see more of in terms of like a site called CMS or content stack or whatever ones where it will help those that aren't like aware of certain SEO kind of stuff to then help craft certain things. I think
Hmm.
they'll be kind of important as well. And John, your last two.
Oh, my last two. Well, every time I go to a task and I think I did this one last week, I'll build a GPT to help me out, and that could do so many things. Blog outliners, SERP analyzers, SERP scrapers, keyword builders, conversational builders, etc. But I've got to say, my favorite one on this screen is Pi's own optimized now with generative AI built in to do all of that heavy lifting for you to analyze your website in the context of the SERP, Google's algorithms, your competitors, your own ecosystem, to handle all that internal linking for you, to discover links that maybe could be improved as well. And this is, I think, for me, it's probably one of the most exciting things that I have embraced from an AI perspective, even better than Gemini's deep research, because this really makes an impact on the performance of your content. So and again, conscious of time, we will come, any questions, just keep putting them in. If we got time, we'll cover them. Otherwise, we will come back after this over the next sort of day or so before the end of the week. But I just wanted to let you, Andy, take us through some of these takeaways. And I'm just looking through the questions as you take us through these.
Yeah, no, all good. Thanks. So thanks, John, and thanks everyone for joining. It's been an enjoyable like session, and yeah, thanks for the questions. I tried to get back just to a couple, and I'll try and do some before the end. So I just want like, and this is just general. I don't know. This is what I would advocate always. Like, you can't know everything, and I know I'm not on Twitter anymore, but like Twitter SEO, LinkedIn, everyone's an expert. Everyone's like, oh yeah, look what I've done with this. Like, you're never going to know everything, and I always, this is what I would take is surround yourself with positive people that like have good character, that and you're curious as well, that you want to go and find out information and find out how did you do that, what can we do here. So I just want to just make it clear that this is evolving so quickly. Like I said, Google's caught like napping with ChatGPT. So if there's certain things that you still like, if there was one of the platforms you hadn't used, like, I don't worry at all about it. It's just we're all kind of going with it. I'd horizontally integrate yourself in your business. That's not just for AI, but in terms of your own knowledge acquisition, what you can learn from others, how you can pick up on a conversation. You think, like, for example, that video AI tool that I've talked about in terms of like scaling, so you can go speak to an Italian audience or a German or French audience, for example. You can pick up certain things that way and see what you can do for your work. Again, Slack channel, what emails go out in terms of the AI strategy? Like, is it under the CTO? Is it more in the marketing side? And then see how they're leveraging it. Like you can see with Kalana, they've been very like bullish in terms of like entry level jobs like that they are kind of focusing on in terms of trying to automate. And again, how I would what has benefited me is to try and automate as much as possible. So if you're doing keyword research about categorization or the research side of things, and like I said with Fireflies, that's just been a game changer for me. And finally, the customer experience is always at the heart of it. This is what I was saying about, well, I've ticked off this box. I've got this piece of content that's written by generative by AI. Like, does a customer like appreciate this? And I, again, horizontally integrate within the business, UX, your customer research team. Like, are you asking real people what they think about your brand, your product, your experience? Have you got like heat mapping set up? Like, always, it was always, and it's not just a value that is said and thrown around. Obviously, the input like that Amazon and Netflix have said on customers, like this has to be lived and breathed. And like I said, wherever the customers are, and what they're interested, what they're migrating to, you need to be across that significantly. So yeah, UX, customer research, like that is an essential kind of touch point.
Absolutely fantastic, Andy. And just before we finish off, let me just move on to this. If anybody would like a demo of Pi, I think we normally had like a QR code, but reach out. That generative AI stuff that I was showing you a short while ago, couple of screens back. Actually, there is a poll running here. Nobody can see this, but we can see it. So if anybody out there does want that before we wrap up, let us know. We can show you how you can use Optimize Now and the rest of the Pi platform to improve your organic performance. So quite a few people are customers. A few people are responding yes to that, which is so cool. And then once that poll has finished, we're just going to wrap up. Andy, I've got a question here. We're looking, this is James, we're looking to rebuild our websites. What do we need to look to build into the new site to take advantage of the AI landscape? I tell you what, James, that's too big a question. That's too big. We'll come back to that one, I think. Anyway,
That,
yeah,
I
go
was
on.
just going to say, I was just sending James a response now. So James, I sent you my email. Drop me a note on that, and we can talk. Obviously, like Figma of like, it depends what you want, like in terms of your resource that you've got available. So look, happy to chat and just share anything that I've been working on with other clients.
God, you're a good multitasker, Andy. But we'll come back to those. I'm just conscious of people's time, but we've got your details, and we will, myself, Pi, Andy, we will get back to you. So we haven't got time for the Q&A, sadly, but if you've got questions after this, please send them to us. Andy, thank you so much for making the past hour fly by in about 30 seconds. That was amazing.
Yeah, no, thanks, John, and thank you everyone for the session. Really, really enjoyable. Please, yeah, follow me on, connect with me, on LinkedIn, and yeah, please do subscribe to the newsletter as well. I've got one on brand strategy coming up, talking to an expert. So, yeah, please, yeah, good to connect with you on there.
Thank you so much, Andy, and audience. Thank you so much, everybody. Returners and new people alike, and we will see you on the next one. But thank you for giving us an hour of your time. We really appreciate it.
See you all.
Cheers, buddy.